So I bought them for $79 and ended up making about $8,000.
Tell us about that first deal, that first wholesale deal that you did.
Well, I did one 5 years ago, and then I did one. You want me the first one at Myers House Buyers or before that?
First one ever.
First one ever. Okay. All right. So the address was, I still remember, it's 212 Pecan Drive in Martinez, Georgia. 309 ago. This was 2017.
And you can remember the address.
Yep. Yeah. I'll tell you about my first two deals, and then you can hear about my third deal if you want. That might be too much, but I'll tell them to you pretty quick. Okay. So this lady had, if it was an inherited property, there were grandchildren that were like, one or two were like a drug addicts that were squatting in the home. The home was a massive reno. It needed 60 to 80, like it was a heavy reno down to the studs. I put the home under contract for, I think, 35 or 36, which at the time was a very fair price. And I sold, I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, I did not know what a cash buyer list was. Didn't have a cash buyer list. So the only thing I could do was list the property on Zillow for sale by owner and put a for sale by owner sign in the yard. So that was my dispo strategy.
All right.
Yeah, by the way, I had another full-time job. So this was a side hustle where I sent out 3,000 letters over like a 2 or 3 month period. And this was the best lead that I got. So you were saying something?
It worked.
It works. Yeah. It took me about 4 or 5 months to finally get the property under contract with her, but we developed a friendship and we did a contract, and I think we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks to close. And I ended up finding another investor that offered me 45, 46 for it. So I was supposed to make about 12. I ended up making about 10,500 because, oh man, this is crazy. Well, I won't bore you with the details, but basically there was a lot of drama on closing day.
We want to know, how did you make 10,500?
Yeah, I want to know the drama. That's what's important.
We only want drama on the Jam Sheet podcast. It's like reality TV. Give it to us.
Well, imagine if you were doing what I was doing, but you didn't know what a double closing or a simultaneous closing was.
I don't.
You just get that. Go ahead.
I said, I don't have to pretend. I don't know.
I don't have to pretend I don't know. Well, long story short, when I got everybody in the room, all of a sudden nobody was happy, and the woman had like the end buyer had expected that a particular like storage shed was supposed to be moved off the property, and the seller had promised that they were going to do that, but then they didn't. And then the seller just kind of started flaking. And anyway, I just ultimately gave everybody money, like, $1,000 or whatever. It just kind of held the deal together.
Wow. So you're supposed to make 12. Your double close, everyone was in the same room?
This was a traditional assignment.
Oh, right.
I didn't want to do it. You got to do an assignment and have people in different rooms for one court now.
Sure.
But this was an assignment where I had both people in the room, and that ended up being an absolute night.
Yeah, I've never done that. And I would be afraid of doing it for the specific reason of what you are experiencing. So yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but the assignment is the way most people get into wholesaling, right? It's how they do their first deals.
Correct.
Simplest form. So
of both parties being in the room.
Right. So if you're doing a double closing, the attorney is automatically going to have people in separate rooms. But if you do an assignment, you can still have people in separate rooms. It's just a physical, it's a physical thing. But In this case, I didn't. So you live and you learn. My second deal?
I do.
So second deal, I had a friend of mine who I played tennis with at the Warren Road Recreation Center, and he was a missionary in Thailand, and he owned 2 homes down in this really rough area of Augusta called Harrisburg. And he wanted to sell them so he could be more liquid and kind of stay on the mission field. So I put his 2 homes in Harrisburg under contract for $71,000. And I would have been fine buying them, but I had another friend of mine that owned like 25 to 30 rentals, and I went to church with him. His name was Scott, and he ended up, I emailed back and forth with him. I was like, I know you got homes in Harrisburg. Do you want these 2 properties? So I gave him the addresses, and he was able to get into them, and I negotiated. He was willing to pay $78 for them. So I bought them for $71, sold them to Scott it was $79, sold them to Scott for $79. And ended up making about $8,000. So,
Okay. So you got them both under contract together for $71,000?
wow. Yeah,
How do you write a purchase agreement for 2 homes at once?
We put both addresses and parcel numbers on the same purchase and sale agreement. So it's not as complicated as you might think. And the closing attorney was fine with that.